The solar industry is in a race to the bottom. Everyone's undercutting each other just to win some work in an extremely saturated market. The result of all this? Terrible solar installs. I've seen so many shocking solar installs of late that it's really alarming. So in this video, I thought I'd share with you how we do things a little bit differently at Artisan Electrics. We're going to go through all of the steps that we take in an install to go above and beyond that help us to stay well away from the race to the bottom. And make sure you watch to the end of the video where I'm going to reveal how we won this job against some interesting competition. So here at this property, we're installing solar panels across 4 roofs, a total of 21 solar panels, 445 watts each. And we're combining those with the Tesla Powerwall 3 system, which comprises of a main Tesla Powerwall 3 unit and an expansion unit for a total of a whopping 27 kilowatt hours of battery storage. Among other things that we've installed here, we've installed the backup gateway as well, so that the property has whole home backup. We've installed DC surge protection and all of our various isolator switches, and we're using some quite interesting cabling as well on this job. We're going to tell you all about it, so let's jump to the start of the install where we'll see how it all began.
That's just that's to gauge how heavy it was. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's not too. You got it? Sort of. You got it?
Yeah, mate, it's killing my hands.
Do you want to put it down?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proper dug in.
Oh. I would just like to explain why it looks like we're working on a bomb site, because yeah, basically we're waiting for the skip to arrive. Normally it's here first thing, but as you can see, there's no skip, so we've got a bit of rubbish. We'll tidy up, but yeah, we're just trying to carry these lovely light Powerwalls in at the moment. Right, put it down here.
At least we put it right in the way.
Yeah, only got to move things 5 times over.
People take these tiles for rosemary tiles. We've had it a lot of times where we turn up to the surveys and they've put like hook stops and stuff like that, but it's not. And what we've been doing as well is lifting the bracket up to the highest point. So like here it's set in its middle point, but what we don't want is too much of it touching the tile. So we lift it up and then it gives a little bit of play. So if there's any movement in the system, don't want to be cracking the tiles below.
Lovely. I'm glad we got that skip. Okay, so this here is the DC expansion pack. The one we have behind us, which we've shown in a sec, is the actual Tesla Powerwall 3. This is just the add-on DC expansion pack. If you're putting expansion packs in, these have to go behind, which means the main controller has to go on the front. And that's because it has all the wiring. So if you had the wiring at the back, you wouldn't be able to access or anything like that. And basically you've got a slight problem where you can stack them side by side or in front of each other, and they're just linked by a lead. But basically they have an expansion pack kit which comes, it has a bracket and screws, and that's not actually available until the 25th of July, which is basically a month's time. So what we're going to do is momentarily we'll connect the first battery, the main battery itself, take this away, and then when we come back in a month's time when the kit arrives, all we've got to do is replace the battery, put this one at the back and then the other one in front of it, basically. Should have wound the feet. Yeah. If I tilt it, you wind that feet out. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So easy.
Basically, this is where the 25mm tails are going to be coming through and back between the gateway and the meter cupboard. So we're just coring a hole through. So I've put a pilot on the other side to make sure that it lines up right, and then I'm just drilling down with the core bit.
We've got the hardy back on, as you see, and the battery's mounted. So now we're going to get installing just all the accessories. So the isolators, the surge protection device, the DC isolators. So I'm just going to cut this down to size, exactly the same as the hardy backer. Get that mounted, and then it gives us a good base to go off, so we can put the isolators below it. get all the glands in and get the wires terminated into them. Look at that, it looks like sharks attacked it. Arr. That's beautiful. So he left us last night when we was finishing up. We was basically waiting on this surge protection device to arrive. So that's come first thing this morning, which is great. So what I'm doing now is I'm just wiring up from the isolators, well, from surge protection device to the isolators. And then from this surge, it'll obviously go up to the roof and to the panels. And then also overnight, we had some good news. Jordan put out a post just asking, did anyone have a bracket available for these stacking kits? Because as I said, they're not actually in the country yet. And we've had some great news, someone's actually got one, so hopefully by Wednesday that should arrive so we can basically show the whole install of actually stacking the batteries as well.
Oh, that's that dangerous wind. So on this garage array, the original plan was meant to be 2 rows of 5 portrait. However, it was so tight, it ended up coming to about here on each end, which is 100 mil, and regulations say, you know, 400 mil. So what we've managed to do now is re-measure it. So we're still going to have the 5 portrait along the bottom with 3 landscape on top. So actually 2 panels less on here, but we found a place elsewhere where we can put them, which is going to be equally as good. And now with the array that we have, it's 500 and 600 from the edges. So it's actually perfect.
This is the 25 mil running from the gateway to the meter cupboard. So we've got to do 2 of these runs so that it goes from the mains through the gateway and then back to feed the house. So I'm just about to cut this off and then I'll run another cable and gland it into that gateway.
Here at Artisan, we're quite fortunate enough to use some really good materials and products. This surge protection device I've fitted is SCAR-made, and so are the DC isolators and so are the AC isolators. We've tried using other products, but they have their sort of faults and things like that. With some isolators, you have to multi-tool like brackets off the top. Some of them don't match up and look identical. So we've ended up with these. They're a bit more expensive, but they're definitely worth it.
So we're laying the garage. One thing that makes Artisan stand out is that they always use a solar skirt, which in my opinion is a premium bird blocker. It's the strongest one on the market, it looks the nicest, and this is just my opinion, you know, but it's so durable. Basically what it is you get these clamps, they clamp onto the panels like that, and then you've got these that just slide in.
Yesterday we have a groundsman that come and does most of the digging and trenches for us, just to speed the jobs up, and obviously they're a lot better with the finishes and things like laying the patios back. So he's dug this trench in, and here we've come across obviously the main supply which we knew he was going to get. And we've also come across a couple of armoured. We're not quite sure where they're running to, but they shouldn't be in our way. So what we're going to do in here is they currently have another consumer unit. This fed this double socket, and then from there it powered the rest of the garage. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove all this because we need a switch fuse to go in here. So we're going to get rid of this socket. We're going to run our armoured across to the gateway, which is inside this garage here, and obviously back here to feed the rest of the property. So yeah, we're just going to get all this removed, get these cables in, get them up here and gland into the switch fuse, and then yeah, hopefully it should get the power back on for the customer. So it's actually probably, we haven't really looked at the actual condition of this. It's actually good we're removing it, because if you look on top here, they've obviously just put a bit of silicone. There's no stuffing glands or anything like that. And this is the worst part. I don't think you can see this. I'm not going to touch it. But up here you can see all 3 of the copper strands on these live tails. So obviously, yeah, that is really quite dangerous to be like that.
So I'm just drilling out a couple more holes, one for the garage supply and one for the EV charger supply, which will all be fed off this gateway, just because tonight we'll have to get this all on and get the carriage supply back up so that he can close it up for his car. Through once I got these clips in.
You what?
I just got to get these clips in.
You what?
I just got to get these clips in.
No worries. As always, it's not very fun when you've got to try and rearrange a meter box. And in this, obviously, we've got quite a bit. So we've got this switch fuse in here. This is to protect the cable. Obviously, we've got armoured going to the gateway. So we've got that protection. Also, you've got another point of isolation here. So this feeds down to the gateway, and then from there we've got the turn from the gateway back to these Henley blocks, which then supplies the power to the property. So now I've just got to pull in another armoured, which will terminate into these Henley blocks, and then thankfully we're all done in this meter cupboard.
So the cable's all in now, from the gateway over to that fuse spur that feeds the garage. So it's clipped up onto one of the beams going across, and then back down again. This big cabinet is in the way, so I didn't really want to go straight across because it'll be drooping behind here. You don't really want that, you want it nice and secure. So I've stuck that up, and now I'm just going to help Luke push this, this feed back to the house through, and then probably clip this round and down into the gateway as well.
So it's the last day of the job, and yesterday you would have seen Luke and Ruben busy pulling the cables through to the gateway here from the main house. So those cables are all in now and dressed in this side. Our ground worker is about to turn up to relay the block paving, so we've just got the data cabling in. I'm here today just helping the guys get finished off because there's quite a lot to do on the last day of this job. I'm just testing the DC voltage on this solar string, and the test has given me a funny reading. It says you've not subscribed yet. So if you can just check please, and we'll get this right straight away. Hit that subscribe button and we'll see you on the future of our subscriber list. So we've got this My Energy Eddy hot water solar diverter that we're going to be installing, but there's a problem. This is a new build house, and as you may have seen on the channel before, we're not massive fans of new build houses because often corners get cut when things are built, and this is a classic example. The boiler is in the loft, the heating controls are all in the loft, and the immersion heater tank is in the loft. But do I want to put this in the loft as well? Not really, to be honest, because it's got a control panel which has buttons which you need to be able to access for changing settings and stuff. Yeah, of course you can do it in the app, but ultimately you kind of need to be able to access this for maintenance, and I don't really want the customer to have to crawl up in the loft just to get to this. So I'm in a bit of a dilemma. There's an option where we could put it in this cupboard, but it makes the job a little bit harder. Let me show you. Welcome to the airing heater cupboard. Airing heater cupboard? The airing cupboard or immersion heater cupboard? Well, it's kind of an airing cupboard but no immersion heater. It's a perfect place to put the Eddy, and the customer's happy with it here, but it means that we've got to then run the cable up through the loft across to the current immersion heater spur, which is going to take a little bit more wiring, a little bit more time and faffing around, but I feel like it's going to be a better job to do that here than it is to put it up in the loft. Let me show you up there. So this is the immersion heater, as you can see. That's the boiler. There's a Hive heating controller here as well, and a couple of switch fuse connection units, one for the boiler and one for this immersion heater. But like I said, I've seen Eddies installed in lofts before. In fact, you might remember this really hideous solar fault finding video that we did where they had an Eddy in a loft, and I commented about it. So my conscience just doesn't allow me to install it up here, even though it'd be so much easier, because we could literally just run from that spur. I was thinking we could probably put it on that board there above the boiler and then run down and straight into here. And look, as an installer, you want an easy life, right? So it's tempting to put it there, but like I said, it's not going to be accessible for maintenance. So the other option, and I think this is what we're going to do, is we're going to run from that spur with some twin and earth down, along, down into that cupboard, and then from that cupboard with some heat shrink flex back into here with some heat resistant flex, and that'll be a proper job. The customer can access it for maintenance, and I'll be able to sleep better at night. For you hardcore viewers of the channel who've been watching for a while, you might remember Tool of the Day. Well, we decided to reinstate Tool of the Day, and today it's going to be 2 tools of the day actually. This head torch, because Unilight head torches and all of their work lights get us out of trouble so much. There's a link below where you can get an amazing discount from Unilight using our code. And then this, the Stud Buddy. And I'll flash to a video that I did a few years ago where I used this, and I kind of thought it was a bit of black magic. Let me show you how it works. So this little tool is a stud finder, right? Found a stud. I couldn't resist, right? And basically, it's not electric, right? It works off neodymium magnets. I've probably pronounced that wrong, but it's got very strong magnets in it. And what they do is they pick up the screws in the plasterboard. And if there's a screw in the plasterboard, you know that's screwing it into some wood. So therefore there's a stud behind. So I've found a screw here, it's magnetized onto it. And then if I go down, there's another one there. There's another one there. So I know that there's a stud here. And then you've got a stud to screw into if you're fixing stuff into plasterboard walls. Stud running down there. And my Eddie's gonna go here, pop a mark on there where that stud is, and then pop a couple of other screws in here just to be safe. Yes, we have a nice solid fixing.
Something else that we try to take pride in as well in our work is cable management. It's something simple, but you know, sometimes on a big job just makes all the difference, all the cables being nice and tidy. For instance, we use D-line clips mostly, which is nice and they're quite convenient that you can clip and unclip them. And then sometimes for a few data cables we use sort of like cable tie bases like this, just keeps it nice and organised.
Looking good! So another thing that we do a little bit different at Artisan Electrics, it's just like details like this, so putting ferrules on the ends of flex cables. Now a lot of electricians do it, to be fair, but like classic example here in this new build, they didn't use ferrules on the flex that was existing for the immersion heater. So the strands just kind of go everywhere and you don't really get a good solid connection. It takes a tiny little bit more time, but it looks so much more neat and results in a much better connection. So it's those little details that make all the difference. Another thing that we do that's a little bit unique is we have dedicated groundworks team and a dedicated roofing team. These guys only do groundworks day in and day out. They only do roofing day in, day out, fitting solar panels, fitting all the mounting kit, and that means they get really good at what they do. They work to a high standard and they work fast, which means we can get the job done to the best standard. So the Eddie's all done, not in the loft, and now I'm going to focus on the EV charger while Luke's connecting up at the mains. We've got a bit of artisan angle drilling to do, so let's get into it. So I always like to start with a pilot hole with like a 10mm bit like this. So I've run through a pilot hole. That avoids brick pops, because if you've got a smaller bit going through, you're much less likely to pop out the bricks on the other side, and you can usually get it to a certain point where you're close to going through and then turn hammer off. And now I'm going to use this absolute beast 28mm Hilti SDS bit. The Hilti inserts, the bits and the cutting blades and all of that are just like the best quality. It's just like second to none. So this should melt through that wall. Now in order to know what angle I've gone through at, it's always good to put the pilot bit in and then line up your main bit so you can sort of visualize what angle you need to go at. Obviously I'm going to have to start it horizontal anyway. Start it like that and then get up to the angle that I need to be at. I still got it. It's been a while. I was a bit worried that I've lost it, been in the office too much, but I've still got it, boys. That'll do. Fantastic. Another little touch that we like to do is to use high quality cables. Now you might think cables are cables, right? Well, wrong. Honestly, like there are some cables that are so poorly manufactured that they're not only really hard to work with, but actually sometimes they're not even manufactured to the right standards. Sometimes cheap cables get imported from countries where the standards aren't the same as in the UK. So we mainly use Doncaster cables, and for EV chargers we use a special cable called EV Ultra, which is this. Now it's really lovely to work with because Doncaster, British made, they've put a lot of effort into the manufacturing process. But what's special about this cable is, especially for electric vehicle charging points, it's got a data cable built into it, a Cat5e, and what that is used for is to either provide a hardwired Ethernet connection to the charger or CT connections, which help us to read how much power is coming in and out of the house or how much the solar is generating. And in this case, Tesla wall connector doesn't even need CT or hardwired Ethernet, but we run it in anyway to future-proof it, so that if they ever changed to a different charging point that did need CT connections or hardwired Ethernet, they've got that possibility and they don't need to fully rewire the circuit just because somebody cheaped out on the cable. So this is another special cable called PV Ultra, and this is designed for DC. It allows us to, it's basically double insulated DC cable in an outer sheath cable, and in this case it's steel armoured as well, so it gives additional mechanical protection, and it allows us to do a really nice neat run of DC cable from the house to the garage where the inverter is going. Whereas traditionally you would run single DC cables in like flexible conduit, or I've seen them like lashed in the gutter, cable tied down a downpipe, all sorts. This allows you to do your DC cable runs really nice. The only downside of it is that we're gonna have to strip like 15 meters of it, because in the loft, this is a 4-core cable, so we've got 2 strings of DC going in here, and we're gonna branch off to the 3 different roofs. So we've had to strip back a lot of it, so that in the loft, we can clip the normal DC cable cores within it, and then branch off to our various roofs. He's a pro, look at that. I've done this before. So they built in a rip cord into the cables because they know that you're going to have to do this sometimes, and it's a massive time saver.
So working in meter cupboards is up there one of my worst jobs about being an electrician, especially when you're doing solar and battery installs. You've got so much to fit in this tiny space, whereas in other countries they have like dedicated rooms or dedicated cupboards basically, which are a lot bigger. Like I say in here, so now you've got a switch fuse, you've got Rec 2, SPD, and an isolator, and you've also got Henny blocks, and as you can see, you soon start running out of room.
Another thing that we do that some people find shocking is we use this device to clean up after ourselves. And I know that electricians have a reputation for not cleaning up after themselves, but we do at Artisan Electrics. In fact, it's one of our promises. I once actually broke that promise because I had to catch a flight and leave site very quickly. So I paid for the customer to get a cleaner in to clean up after me. That's how seriously we take our promise of always cleaning up after ourselves. Now, the customer on this job told me that he had quotes from national installers for £10,000 less than what we've quoted him for this project. But he went with us because he had confidence that we would do a good job and that all the details would be done properly, because he wanted a system that's just going to work well for his family with no hiccups. It's going to be easy to use, it's going to look good. So for that reason he chose to pay more and go with us, which is reassuring for us as a business because it shows that clients value quality over rock bottom pricing. And to be honest, I just don't know how some of these national companies are doing installs that cheaply. Evidently, from what we've seen in a lot of cases, corners are being cut. So we take pride in just doing a proper job, charging a reasonable price for that job, and ending up with a happy customer and a fantastic system. Now, as you'll see, we have stacked these Tesla Powerwall 3s this time. The last video that we did about the Powerwall 3, we were wall mounting them side by side, so it's a slightly different installation on this one. And actually, I was very pleasantly surprised with how easy they were to stack. They are heavy, so maneuvering them is definitely a 2-man job, but it was a pretty easy setup to stack. We did have trouble getting hold of the stacking kits because there's not many of them in the country at the moment, but shout out to our wholesalers who helped us out with that. And I like the way it looks actually. I don't think it looks too bulky. So yeah, thumbs up for the stacking kit. So thanks for watching today's video. If you've enjoyed this one, there'll be 2 more videos popping on the screen now that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy.